Welcome to Adult Sabbath School Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend, and write any questions or comments you have below.
Just imagine hearing that. A command, a challenge, really, to the very fabric of reality. And this one single puzzling line is exactly where our story kicks off. All right, first up, mercy before the miracle. Now, before we get to the whole sun standing still thing, we've got to unpack the surprising backstory of a group of people called the Gibeonites. Because believe it or not, their story of mercy is what sets the entire stage for the battle to come. So to get the context here, the Israelites, with Joshua in the lead, are in the middle of conquering the land of Canaan. And according to the sources, this wasn't just some land grab. No, it was framed as a divine judgment on the Canaanite nations for, well, some pretty deep-rooted corruption. But, and this is a huge but, this judgment wasn't sudden, it wasn't rash. The sources are really clear that it was delayed for 400 years. I mean, think about that. That's 4 centuries of patience, which tells you this was an absolute last resort. It really emphasizes that this long period of mercy came before any judgment happened. And this is where the Gibeonites pop up. See, they were one of the nations on that list for destruction. So, knowing what was coming, they came up with a pretty clever plan. They tricked Joshua into making a peace treaty by pretending they were from some far-off land. And yeah, even though they were totally dishonest, when the truth came out, they begged for mercy. And the result? They were spared. It just goes to show that even in the middle of this campaign of judgment, there was a way out, a path to mercy for anyone who actually sought it. And here's the really wild part. Their punishment, being made woodcutters and water carriers for the sanctuary, it actually ended up becoming a blessing. It brought them right into the heart of Israel's system of worship. I mean, they went from being idolaters to being participants in the spiritual life of the very nation that was supposed to destroy them. What a turnaround, right? Okay, so this treaty with the Gibeonites, it sparks a brand new conflict. And this one leads us right into a frantic race against the sun because the battle for Gibeon is about to begin. So the neighboring kings are absolutely furious that the Gibeonites have teamed up with Israel. They form a coalition and they attack Gibeon. Joshua and his army respond with this incredible all-night march, totally catching the enemy off guard. The battle is going great, and the enemy forces are in a full-on retreat. But there was a massive problem. Victory was so close they could taste it, but the daylight was fading, and fading fast. The setting sun was about to give the enemy the cover of darkness, letting them escape, regroup, and come back to fight another day. So this puts Joshua in a basically impossible situation. The job isn't done, but the clock is ticking. How in the world could this victory be completed? It's this desperate moment that leads to one of the most audacious prayers you'll ever hear about. Which brings us to the main event. When the sun stood still. We're about to see a direct, head-on challenge to the laws of nature as we know them. So right there, in front of all of Israel, Joshua just commands, "Sun, stand thou still." And the biblical account says the impossible happened. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed. For pretty much a whole day, the laws of physics were just put on pause so they could finish the battle. Now, an event like this flies directly in the face of a worldview that's super common today, naturalism. That's basically the belief that nature is all there is, and it completely rejects any supernatural or spiritual explanations for anything. From that perspective, a miracle like the sun standing still is, by definition, absolutely impossible. So what was the point? Well, this miracle was a massive statement. It was a demonstration that creation is under the complete and total control of its creator. The sun, which so many ancient cultures worshipped as a god, was shown to be nothing more than an obedient object to the God of Israel. It was a powerful message to anyone who would put nature above the God of nature. But, okay, what's the lesson we're supposed to draw from this? Well, the story reveals this incredible dynamic, this partnership between divine power and human effort. The miracle didn't mean the Israelites got to just sit back and watch. It shows a kind of teamwork that's the real secret to success. Let's just break it down side by side. On one hand, you have divine power. God promised they'd win. He sent hailstones that actually did more damage than their swords, and of course, he stopped the sun. But look at the other side. You have human effort. Joshua's army marched all night long, they fought with everything they had, and Joshua prayed with this unbelievable, radical faith. You see, it wasn't one or the other. It was both, working together. There's this quote by E.G. White that just sums it all up perfectly. The men of prayer are the men of power. Joshua's power didn't come from his military smarts alone. No way. It came from his complete reliance on God, which he showed through prayer, even while he was acting with every ounce of energy he had. But this whole idea of trust is about to face its ultimate test. Because after this huge victory, Joshua faces an even bigger challenge, a true test of faith over chariots. Up in the north, another group of kings gets together, but this one is way more intimidating. The sources describe their armies as being as many as the sand on the seashore, and they're equipped with very many horses and chariots. We're talking about the ancient world's equivalent of a tank battalion. This was top-of-the-line military tech. God again promises them victory, but then he gives these really radical instructions. He says 1, beat the armies, 2, capture all their advanced weaponry, and then 3, hamstring the horses, and 4, burn the chariots. From a military perspective, this is completely insane. You would never destroy the very weapons that could guarantee your future victories. So why on earth would God command that? Well, this verse from Psalm 20 really gets to the heart of it. The nations all around them, they trusted in their military might, their chariots and horses. God was teaching Israel to put their trust somewhere else entirely, in him. And that really highlights the core lesson here. It was all about dependency. It wasn't really about the horses or the chariots themselves. It was about who Israel would look to for their strength. Were they going to rely on the world's symbols of power or on the God who could literally stop the sun in the sky? And this kind of brings it all home for us today, doesn't it? Our world has all sorts of ideas about what success looks like and how we're supposed to get it. This story makes you wonder, though. Is God looking for people today to live in a way that is just as radical, just as completely unexpected, a way that turns the world's expectations completely upside down?
Thanks for watching. See you next time.